right, what's going on, everybody? So I'm going to get set up here now. Get this thing going. Hope everybody's doing all right. Share these on my page here. I actually did this same exact, well, not same exact. I did an updated version of this with a number of folks over at Real Estate Association of Puget Sound. So I'm going to share this now. Share now with friends. Right. Get this thing going. Share to my timeline and get some of the comments going here. All right. So let's jump right into it. So I've been getting a ton of questions about, COVID-19, what's going on. I mean, we all hear the stuff that's going on the news. And, well, I decided to take all of the information that I was getting from the different economists, friends in the industry, everything along those lines, and put it all together in just something that's really simple, really easy for everybody to understand. So I am using a new platform for everything. If you guys have any comments or anything along those lines, I should be able to see everything. So fire away. Now let's jump right into it. And I'm going to add this to my stream. And I'll let you guys see the full thing because I can kind of talk through it. All right, here we go. Top 5 questions. We're going to answer this one for sure going into it. All right, top 5 questions about the impact of COVID-19 on the housing market. Go here. All right. When is the economy going to recover? Are we going into a recession? Is this going to be like 2008? What about all the job losses? And what should I do right now? So let's head into that. All right. Number 1, when is the economy going to recover? So I want everybody to keep this in mind. Economists right now, especially in the housing market, are having to do 3 types of different sciences to try to figure this out. They got business science, which is how has the economy rebounded in similar slowdowns in the past. There's health science. When will COVID-19 be under control? And will there be another flare-up of this virus in the fall? And then there's people science, which is probably the most difficult of them all. And that is, after businesses are fully operational, how long will it take for the American consumers to return to normal consumption patterns, such as going to movies, attending a sporting event, or flying? Again, these are 3 different sciences, and none of them are easy, but I would have to say out of all of them, the people science is probably the one that has the biggest challenge of them all because, well, you got to figure out people, and people aren't easy. Everybody's different. I mean, if you take a look today, you walk into Costco, some people are wearing masks, some people are not. Some people are going out on walks. Others are trying to stay inside. So again, it's one of those things where you have to figure that out. Now let's jump back into the slides real fast. And major financial institutions are calling for a second half recovery. And I thought this was probably one of the most uplifting slides that I've seen. Guys like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, and Wells Fargo have all made their predictions. And if you see, quarter number 2, which is where we're at right now, obviously a big dip, but you'll see a sharp recovery that's happening in quarter 3 and quarter 4 of this year. So again, everybody's predicting, we're going to take an initial hit. But as everybody's been listening to on the news, you are going to hear that, yes, there are some unemployment claims coming out in large numbers, but a lot of them is going to be temporary, as we'll get to see. So the big thing is there's no L-shaped recovery. And here's what I mean by that. When you get an L-shaped recovery, everybody's expecting an L-shaped recovery to all of a sudden be a quick drop, like, one part of an L, and then just stay down there. So it's not going to be like that. We're looking more at something like a sharp V recovery. So basically, we'll take a really big hit and then we'll come up rather quickly. So we're not catching any L's. All right, let's keep going here. I thought this was something that was also really encouraging. This came from the chief economist of Freddie Mac, who is really running most of the mortgages in America right now. It says, although the uncertainty of the crisis means forecasts of economic activity are more unclear than usual, we expect that most of the economic damage from the virus will be contained to the first half of the year. Going forward, we should see a recovery starting in the second half of 2020. Again, more good news. One of those things, or one of those reasons, are home ownership rates. Now, if you're taking a look at this slide, and hopefully you can blow it up a little bit bigger on your screen, but home ownership was at its height really in 2005, 2006. And then, of course, we went through the Great Recession, where you can see, things really started to taper off there. And if you remember, there were a ton of short sales, ton of foreclosures, and it went down to a real low to like around 2015, 16. And now, again, we're on the rebound. Now, one of the reasons for the rebound is the skyrocketing price in rents. So anybody out there right now who is a first-time home buyer, you're looking to buy, you've definitely seen the large increase, that dramatic rise in rent since 1988 is what this graph goes towards. So the U.S. Census Bureau is just saying this is a huge, huge indicator on why people are making their return. And one thing I want to point out is when it comes to this slide is months of inventory of homes for sale. So this is a huge, huge component of why the economy will recover really quickly. If you take a look, anybody who remembers that 2008 and a couple years after, you had a large amount of homes for sale. I mean, you could walk down the street and you'd see anywhere from 2 to 3 homes for sale on every block. We're in the exact opposite of that. So I know I have a lot of real estate agent friends, and they constantly talk about, there's 3 months inventory, 6 months inventory, 5 months inventory. Well, here's what that really means for us. When you have a ton of homes on the market, it's a buyer's market. It's all about supply and demand. And then when you drop down and you go into underneath 5 months or underneath 6 months, you're looking at a seller's market. Because why? There's not a ton of homes on the market. So again, supply and demand play a huge, huge factor into this. So how many months of inventory do we really have? We'll take a look. Let's just go back as far as towards the end of the year last year. So that last quarter, you only had 3.9 months, 3.7 months. And then again, go back to this graph. What does that tell us? Right now, there's very, very few homes that are on the market. We're down here towards the bottom. So, and again, this is nationally, so keep that in mind. But what we're looking at right now is in March, we're at 3.4. And obviously, we don't have April's information yet because the month just ended. But what that's going to come out and show is, remember, real estate agents weren't deemed an essential facet, at least in Washington state, for a part of the initial stay-at-home phase. And then, of course, it got revised. So, there weren't a lot of listings on there. I would expect that number is going to be much lower going into April's report. A big thing that I wanted to show everybody right here was this was back in 2012. In 2012, 35% of all homes that were on the market were short sales or foreclosures. And then as you can see throughout the years, we've continued just to make better loans. We've continued to just have more responsible clients, more responsible borrowers. And you can see that number's down to its lowest. We're at 2% of short sales, foreclosures. And again, if you took 35% of all listings out of the market, look at all those listings that were there in 2012, all those homes that were for sale. Again, it's not rocket science. I mean, you're taking a look in there And you're seeing that it was obviously a buyer's market at that time. I mean, I remember when I had clients who were sitting there and they were lowballing houses. I mean, in that time frame, in that 2012 time frame, people would see a house and it'd say, "Oh, it's listed for $400,000." Well, I'm going to send you an offer of $350,000. And the crazy part was those offers were getting accepted. Why? Because supply and demand. All right, let's jump back in here. Oops. There we go. All right, here's another one. This came from the Harvard Business Review, and it says it's worth looking back at history. And I think this is a great place to look. I mean, for us to know what happened in the past will definitely help us plan out what's going on in the future. So it says it's worth looking back at history to place the potential impact path of COVID-19. And then it goes, in fact, V-shapes monopolize the empirical landscape of prior shocks, including epidemics such as SARS and the 1963 H3N2, the Hong Kong flu, 1958 H2N2 flu, and 1918 Spanish flu. So, I mean, if you're looking back at those, let's see. I can go ahead and bring that up. There we go. Misplaced the slide there. All right, take a look at this. And I'm going to zoom in just so you guys can see. These were the reactions. So you can see the stock market took different hits during this time frame. And I mean, just expect something that's similar. But again, look at the dates that it was happening. I mean, the avian flu, which was the bird flu, if you guys remember that lasted roughly about 8 months. This one was about 3 months. This one, again, 3 months. So that was the initial impact that was going on the market at the time. Back here. All right. So, big one. Are we going into a recession? And I think that's what everybody's scared of, because really, again, you go back to that 2006, 2008. I mean, I personally got into the business, I believe it was 2005. So I got in there in 2005, and I just had this conversation with a client yesterday and talking about that. You know, you go into the 2006 and then 2008 when the economic crash happens. A lot of people are still afraid, you know, is that what's going to happen with this? And so we'll go in here. And one thing that's important to bring out is, again, recession does not equal housing crisis. So for those of you who don't know, the actual terminology or the definition for a recession is where your GDP, so the gross domestic product report, that goes negative for 2%, 2 consecutive quarters. So not everything means that we're going to go into a 2008 all of a sudden again. That's set. All right. So with the exception of 2 recessions, the Great Recession of 2007 through 2009 and the Gulf War recession in 1990, no other recessions have impacted the housing market, according to Freddie Mac Home Price Index, with data collected from 1975 to 2018. So we can see here home price recessions during the last 5 recessions. The only times, again, it went down were those 2008 years. Going through, let's see, I'm going to go and I'm going to jump through. Some of these slides aren't coming through on here. We're going to jump here. So one of the big things is in 2008, 2006 rather, you'll see this. I don't expect everybody to understand all the numbers, but this was during the housing bubble. So this was like stated income loans, everything along those lines. That's the housing market affordability index or availability index. So, I mean, pretty much if you could fog a mirror back in the day, you were getting a home loan. And these days, look how much lower it is. So we have a lot of safe loans, is all I'm trying to say. One thing I will really emphasize to everybody, and this is huge, when it comes to situations with the new forbearance laws, I'm asking you guys to please, please, please pay attention to this, because if you're currently, if you have a home right now and you're thinking about doing a refinance, or you're thinking about a forbearance, in other words, deferring some mortgage payments, pay attention to this next slide. It is huge. These are credit pulls that were done recently. Again, take a look at the dates. You got April 20th, okay? April 20th, 2 different loans that were taken. We took the credit rating on them. They both did a forbearance. One was a conventional loan, and the credit bureaus reported them 30 days late. This one on the bottom, this was a FHA loan. And you can see the credit rating right here, zeros. Again, a forbearance was done. So what does that tell you? Jump out here. The credit bureaus still are going to report with the information that are given to them. All of the servicers are going to report these differently. A refinance really makes sense in a lot of ways when it comes to this, because your credit rating is everything. So again, if you have questions on this stuff, please, 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 please reach out to me before you do it, and let's see if we can figure out anything else that might be an option. All right. So this has to do a little bit with credit scores, and that's why I brought that last slide out, was because, again, if you miss even just one payment, that could be anywhere from 30 to 50 points on your credit score. And you can see where the majority of home loans are being approved right now. Folks with 749 credit scores down to 600. Due to the financial crisis, I would say that you'd want to be above that 620 mark if you're looking to get a home loan right now. 640, 660, somewhere in there. I'm going to take a look just at this one slide. I'm going to skip over that last one because I think this is a huge thing. There is so much equity right now in the market. I don't think that there's going to be foreclosures in broad part because of this particular slide. 58.7% of all homes in America currently have at least 60% equity. So people are probably not going to walk away from these homes or get foreclosed on when it comes to these homes. More than anything, they're going to probably go the route of selling their homes, refinancing, and working something out. This was astonishing to me. If you look in the bottom left corner right there, 42.1% of all homes are owned free and clear. Let's see. We'll go here. What about all the job losses? So we alluded to this earlier. If you take a look during the Great Depression, the job losses got up to 25%. If you look at the Great Recession, which was that 2008 mark, unemployment got up to 9.9%. And then if you go into the current crisis, we're at about 15%. Why I bring this out is because over the last couple of weeks with the jobless claims, if you look, right about the time all the COVID information started coming out, 3.3, 6.9, 6.6. And I'm not saying that these aren't huge astronomical numbers. What I'm trying to point out is if you take a look from when all of the news really started to hit and all the jobless claims started to really take place, we hit an apex. And now we're working our way down. And as more areas start to open up, I think what you are going to see is those unemployment numbers come down and folks getting back to work. You're going to see the economy again start to stimulate. And with jobs, typically do come people who want to buy houses. A breakdown of this is really, really important because if you look, 37.8%, okay, 37.6% of all unemployment claims were servers and bartenders, folks in the restaurant industries. If you go over here, the next one is 10.2%, and that was retail. 10.2% right here was professional services. 6.8% were doctors' offices. 6.3% were arts and entertainment. And the reason why this is all super, super important to bring out is because if you're taking a look at everything and how it's working, servers and bartenders in restaurants, yes, they're going to come back. But we may not see that the same way with
jobs. Typically do come, people want to buy houses.
We may not see that with arts and entertainment, but the dentists, the doctors, etc., those folks will be coming back to work sooner than later. They'll be coming to work sooner than later. So, again, as more states start to open up, we should see the economy make its way. And if you look in here, I divided this into 3 different categories, okay? So, of these 3 different categories, here's what we got. You have in here employed versus unemployed, so 14.7%, temporary versus permanent. So when they were surveyed, majority of the folks in here, 90%, said this was just temporary. 10% said they were permanently going to be unemployed. Also, 13% were men, 15% were adult women, and this was just based on the survey. 31.9% were teenagers. So if you see a lot more teenagers hanging around at home, that's your reason why. All right. Again, when it's coming to unemployment and when it's coming to everything along those lines, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan Chase all are coming out with what they feel is going to be a sharp V recession. It's going to be deep, but I mean, as far as the length in comparison, again, the Great Recession of 2006 through 2016, Great Depression 1929 through 1942, those were long-standing. These are not. Unemployment rates don't always have a correlation to home ownership sales. So if you take a look, the yellow line is unemployment claims. The blue line is home purchases. And as you can see right here, I mean, there were still a ton of home purchases, especially in these years right here. So what should we be doing right now? Taking a look at 30-year fixed mortgage rates is super, super crucial. You can see how low rates have gotten just since 2016. So if you are thinking about purchasing a home, it can be an amazing investment right now, especially when we're taking a look at rate projections. I took a accumulation of Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, Mortgage Bankers Association, National Association of Realtors, and took the average of all 4. So some of these guys are saying rates will be 3.3 and below. I know you guys have all probably heard the rumors of the 2% interest rates. They're there. I do want everybody to keep this in mind. It is going to take much longer to close a home loan these days at your average lender because of the high volume of refinances that are happening. This is more of just a close-up view of what's happening inside of Kitsap County. So the median home price is $401,000. So that's the house that you're seeing, most likely that price point. Well, obviously this year we're not expecting a ton of appreciation, about 1.11%. All right, if you take a look right here, the 5-year gain though, if you bought a house this year, 5 years from now, based on appreciation and you paying down everything, it would be about $478,514. This would be your profit after 5 years. Also, taking a look over here when it comes to inventory. Looks like we have 3 months. That's about 2 homes listed for sale per 1,000 people. I put this one in here because I thought it was great. So still, even with home prices accelerating, which they have the past couple years, today's low interest rate environment has made affordability the best it's been since 2018, despite the average home price increasing nearly $13,000. The monthly mortgage payment required to buy that same home has actually dropped by 10%. So what does that mean for us? Take a look right here. Put another way, prospective home buyers can now purchase a $48,000 more expensive home than a year ago while still paying the same in principal and interest, a 16% increase in buying power. So I put this slide together so that you could take a look and you could actually see what that looks like in real numbers. So in real numbers, this is what I'm talking about. Let's just say you got pre-approved in, I don't know, call it August of last year, and interest rates were at 4.5. Well, if you take a look at what you would be able to do at 3.75, you're looking right here, $2,032. Obviously, a major difference. Here's the deal, though. You can buy a $438,750 house versus $405,000. Huge, huge, huge savings when it comes to purchasing a home. So I want to leave you guys with this, with John Paulson's comments. If you don't own a home, buy one. If you own one home, buy another one. And if you own 2 homes, buy a third and lend your relatives the money to buy a home. All right, so here's my 5 takeaways. Real estate is still a smart play. If you have the capacity to buy a home, do it. When refinancing, make sure it increases cash flow or you pay off and consolidate debt. Seek advice on community-funded assistance, especially if you're renting right now. Wellspring is a good one in King County. Also, be very, very cautious regarding forbearance. TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian are all required to report data based on the servicer. Each servicer will handle it differently. And lastly, be smart, be patient, but most of all, be safe. All right, guys, that's what I have for you. So unless you guys got any questions, I'm going to go ahead and, bounce, get back to work. But thank you so much for tuning in. And again, if you guys have questions, make sure you let me know. I will talk to you soon.